What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I'm your host, your bastard of ceremonies, Reckless Rexx Ruger. That, of course, is the Freddie Mercury puppet. If you couldn't tell by the choppers, come on, take a look. And take a look at me. You might also know me as Diamond David Lee Roth Jr., and the hard science will prove it very soon. And let me give myself a look before my guest gets in here in true Roth fashion. And my guest is here, so we're going to get down to it and chop it up with him. Let's dispense of the formalities and get down to it. You know this is where the cool kids come to chop it up with your boy, Rexx Ruger. No place else. Let's get down to it. And we got him. There he is. Adam.
Rexx, what's up?
Uh-oh, we lost him.
Hang on.
That's all right. And if I did, of course, I probably shouldn't need to tell a stalwart of the music industry like you, but you should be able to tell that you're looking at Diamond David Lee Roth Jr., right?
Oh, hell yeah. Oh,
you can tell,
yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me?
It's a dead giveaway, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, like I tell all people who agree, I may quote you on that or subpoena you when it's time to go to court.
Dude, I'm ready.
It might come down to that, and I'll remember the little people. You know, if I'm getting some of that Panama money, I will spread the wealth around.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that.
We could all use a little bit of that. You know what I mean? So listen, usually when I start these things, Adam, I like to kind of go back to the beginning, man. When you got into the musical journey here, man, was there a specific artist or an album or a song that kind of lit the fuse for you?
You know, when I was a kid, I was really into a lot of different stuff. I was lucky. I was raised in a house where there was a lot of music going on. So it was everything from Wilson Pickett to Alice Cooper to the New York Dolls. I mean,
eclectic.
Yeah, a lot of, Beach Boys, Beatles, Stones, yeah. So I was very fortunate in that regard. So I got exposed to a lot of different stuff, and it's interesting that later in my career, some of the stuff that I did, I didn't realize how much some of that early stuff really influenced me. Like if you listen to the Abraxas album by Santana, there's a lot of like really ethereal stuff on there that nowadays some people might think of as kind of like industrial type stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of like really crazy early electronic stuff. That was not even the focus. It was just kind of background, intros of songs and stuff like that. So, yeah, I was, like I said, I was just very fortunate to be raised in a house full of music.
And now you also play guitar, correct?
Yeah, I play guitar, I play bass, I program stuff.
What would you say the primary instrument is?
Guitar, definitely.
And is there somebody out there when you started playing guitar or throughout your guitar playing days that is there one player out there or maybe a couple players out there that you feel influenced your guitar playing the most?
Absolutely, man. It's funny. I was just talking with a buddy of mine about this recently. There's a couple of guitar players. I would say Geordie from Killing Joke was a huge influence on my playing.
Yeah.
I would say that Daniel Ash from Bauhaus was also a huge influence on my playing. Who else? The guy in Discharge, Tony Bones rather, was a huge influence. Like Discharge was a huge influence on me in many ways, guitar playing, and Black Flag as well. Greg Ginn from Black Flag also. Yeah. I'd say those four players were probably the primary influence on my playing today.
And when you guys used to get together to to create the SKREW albums, what was the creative process like back then? Like, was someone coming in with the lion's share of the ideas, or was it very collaborative?
I wish it had been more collaborative, actually. I was always looking for folks to come in and do something, and be a part of the process. But in all honesty, it was usually me and what I would refer to as like the kind of engineer guy. Usually the person who was doing all the programming on the computer would be behind the computer with a keyboard to trigger samples, and then I'd have a guitar in my hands to lay down riffs. We'd put together drum parts, and I'd start playing and coming in with. I generally had ideas about songs, about riffs that I wanted to put together, but we'd build. Like a big part of my building process is coming up with a riff and then building off of that. So yeah, that's primarily it was me and whoever was the computer guy at the time.
That's an interesting take, because you do hear a lot of ego in music where like guys want to kind of like be the ones to really take the reins. So it's interesting that you say like, geez, I would have welcomed some collaboration.
Well, and I'll tell you why. I feel like, and I have collaborated on other people's stuff with them. I wrote the title track to a Ministry album a few years ago that was a huge collaboration. And I feel like when you have more than one mind working on something, more than one person, more than one soul, what happens is it gets tossed around back and forth. It gets molded more, as opposed to just one person coming up with stuff.
Yeah.
It's more homogenous. You know what I mean? Like I feel like SKREW could have been, so much more with people that were willing. Actually, there was one song that I did have some collaboration on. It's called Knotted Twig. It's off the Shadow of Doubt record. And there's a guitar player named Jed Simon. I don't know, you might have heard of his name, but he used to play with, oh, fuck, I'm just drawing a blank. Who's the Canadian guy that's crazy and fucking used to have dreads, and he's an amazing singer. He sang on Steve Vai's record.
Now I'm drawing a blank.
Oh,
Dreads?
huh?
You said dreads?
Yeah, he had dreads. He's bald now, and this guy's super talented. But anyway, Jed used to play in Young Lads. What is it?
Strapping young lad?
Strapping Young Lad.
Yeah.
You, my friend, just got
Yeah.
points from me.
Yeah.
So Jed was the other guitar player in Strapping Young Lad, and there was a period of time I was trying to get him to join SKREW, and he flew down, and we wrote a song together that did end up being on one of the. It's called Knotted Twig, and it's on the Shadow of Doubt record, and that was really the one time that I had someone who he wasn't even in the band.
Yeah.
He ended up not joining because of the Canadian and U.S. paperwork and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
We didn't have money for
Yeah.
lawyers and
Yeah.
all that shit. But he's one of my favorite guitar players. He's a great guy, Jed Simon.
And what about back when, if you can harken back to when you did used to tour, I know I'm 51 years old now, man. I mean, I don't, my job doesn't involve traveling, but I do like to be home at night. I like my creature comforts. I think we all kind of, inherently, we love home more than any place else. But when you used to go back out on tour, I know it was a different time, different place in your life, but did you like the sort of, the nomadic existence of touring?
Yeah, I mean, for a while it was really great. After a while, I have to admit that I felt like I was missing out on life.
Yeah.
A lot of people would think, "Oh my God, it's a dream come true." And listen, I'm not. I'm super grateful for my experience, but after a few years of that, it gets to the point where if you're not like if I don't know how to say this without sounding like a dick, but for people that don't have anything else in their lives or don't have any other interests, it's great because you're just focused, focused, focused. But to be honest, man, there's a lot of things that I've always wanted to do in life and that I have done. I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I'm a psychotherapist. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of shit
Yeah.
that I've had to do. So, it was great, and I loved it, and I'm super fortunate because I've seen the world and met some really amazing people. Uh, but yeah,
In your
I'm
travels, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. When you were out there, when you were touring, was there anybody that you came in contact with that really kind of blew your mind, where you kind of said, "I can't believe I met that person," or I'm going to meet this person?
there's a bunch of people who I didn't know I was going to meet, obviously. One of my favorite people I ever met was Paul Raven. He was the bass player in Killing Joke, and
Yep.
he later played in Prong and played in Ministry
Yep.
on a couple of tours. And man, I got to tell you, he was one of the coolest, most down to earth, uh, just one of the best dudes I ever met.
Yeah.
And in fact, when he passed away, and I know, everybody says this, but the day he was here in Austin for a couple of weeks before he split to Switzerland to do that record with that French band, Trippin' and Pal. And when he came back, we were going to do a SKREW record together. And dude, when I found out he passed away, it was so weird, man, because the same night that he passed away, I had to put my dog down.
Wow.
And yeah, it was really it was a power it was, I know that sounds bizarre. I'm not comparing Raven to my dog at all, but my dog was like my fucking, best buddy.
No, but when life starts shitting on you, though, it does seem like it all kind of comes at once.
Dude, it
You
was it
know?
was intense. It was
Yeah.
really intense, man.
Yeah.
Broke my heart. I mean, forget about working together, but the fact that I used to run into that guy. I can remember one time I'd been in Berlin working on a record with a friend, and I was trying to get home, and I had a connection in Amsterdam, and my flight was late coming in, and I'm running through the Amsterdam airport, trying to get to my next flight, and I hear someone yell my name, Adam, Adam, and I turn around and look, and it's fucking Raven with some girl, and he's got all these bags, and he's like, and I'm like, dude, I gotta go, I gotta run, so I would run into him like in
Right.
just the craziest places, uh, and so yeah, it was really heartbreaking to lose him, man. Let me tell you, that guy had some powerful energy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he was really a powerful dude and an amazing player. And yeah, so that's probably one of my all-time, favorite. I mean, I've met so many cool people. Tommy Victor. Oh, fuck, what a great guitar player that guy is.
Awesome. Yeah.
Incredible, guitar player. Just, but did a tour with Creator and got to tour. There was a guy in Creator at the time, Frank Blackfire, who was a member of Sodom.
I'm trying to get
Uh,
him on the podcast. I know I've been
he's,
going back and forth. Yeah.
I think he's in Sodom again,
Yeah, he is.
actually.
He is. Yeah, he
And
is.
dude, fucking great guy, man. I didn't know that I was gonna like meet someone that I thought was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, it's been great, getting to meet a lot of people.
And I got to ask because it was such a snapshot in time. But Burning in Water, Drowning in Flame comes out in 1991, and then Dusted comes out in 1994. But the musical landscape was really changing at that time with the entrance of grunge. You know what I mean? It seemed like everybody was in a panic now. So suddenly the hair metal and all that stuff was out, and we were getting this music coming from Seattle, and it seemed like it was affecting everybody in the way they wanted to sound. Did you feel any pressure personally to say like, holy shit, this is like the new sound right now? We got to like kind of like adapt our own sound, or was there any pressure to tweak or change anything?
Not really. The funny thing about that is that grunge was just shit that we were already listening to, but
Right,
had now
right.
now hit the radio and got big. I certainly wasn't, no offense to anybody, but Pearl Jam was not my deal. I
Yeah.
heard that and I heard Journey. I thought, oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
this generation's Journey.
Yeah.
Although I'd rather listen to Journey. Uh, and so, no, there wasn't any pressure. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not that great of a musician. So for me to go, oh, I'm gonna try and take some of this style and tweak my own thing. I don't think I'm capable of that.
Yeah.
Basically what I do is I will say this, I'm a pretty creative guy.
Yeah.
And I found a way to use sound to express, what I had to say. So it's, you know, uh, that would be going to the next level, trying to
Right.
develop. And besides, and no offense to my brother, that's what he does. He's in the advertising game.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
he does that. He's very successful at it.
Yeah.
But that's not my deal. You know what I mean? That's not my thing.
Yeah. Now, do you think industrial music, and I guess that's what you would typify like what you guys did right back in the day.
Sure.
Where do you think you fit in like amongst the other bands that have done industrial? When I think of industrial, I always think of Ministry. I think of Nine Inch Nails. I think of Skinny Puppy. Yeah, you know what I mean? I think of bands like that. Where do you feel like you fit in there?
You kind of hit on a sore spot, Rex. I'm just going to be very honest with you, buddy. No, I'm kidding. I never felt like we fit in anywhere. We were always kind of too metal for the industrial kids.
Yeah.
And we were too industrial for the metal kids.
Yeah, I get that.
We didn't dress in, latex like the industrial kids did.
Right.
And we didn't dress in leather and spikes like the metal kids.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm an old school hardcore punk rock kid.
Yeah.
And that's what I grew up with. My first band that I ever played in opened up for Minor Threat, back in the 80s. And
yeah, doesn't get any more hardcore punk than that. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of who I am. Now, did we do things for fun? Yeah. I remember one tour I bought a suit at Goodwill, and it was, I don't know why I got a wild hair, but I thought I'm going to wear a suit on this tour.
Yeah.
And I wore a suit without no shirt, no underwear, just I wore a suit and that was it on that entire tour. And it had to be thrown away at the end of the tour because it was beyond repair and the smell, it was bad. So there was stuff like that I did for fun, but that wasn't like a style, you know what I mean? Like remember when grunge first came up and people started wearing
flannel?
Flannel.
A lot of flannels, yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
I mean, that was what we wore as skate kids. In fact, if you look at my mind is out of
every skater kid I can think of, though. I remember with a flannel tied around their waist.
Right. That's right. Circle jerks is what I was trying to think of.
Yeah.
There's Skankin' Man, that symbol. He's got a flannel on.
Yep.
So that all that stuff was just like the rest of the world discovering what we were already doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
All those bands were punk rock bands.
Yeah. So do you feel like those early albums are more of a representation of what you wanted to sound like, or like, because I think of 2014, you put out Universal Immolation. That is very, very metal to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I never ever set out to do something like, I'll tell you how the industrial aspect of what we did came about. Is I was a film student, right? And I was in college, and I had a band called ANGKOR. We did a couple of records, crossover thrash type stuff on Metal Blade back in the 80s. And while I was doing that, I was in college at the university doing film, and and I was making like these short, like crazy, fucked up, bad nightmare films, and I was creating soundscapes to go with these film loops, right?
Hmm.
And I thought, and at first it was like using two jam boxes with one that had two different cassette decks on it. So I
Yeah.
was bouncing shit.
Yep.
And as I was bouncing shit, I thought, you know, I was creating these loops, and I thought, fuck, we could probably use this on some of the ANGKOR shit. And we did. And then it became affordable for the technology for creating loops and samples became more affordable. And so that's when I was using it for film,
Yeah.
and just happened to start combining that with what we were doing musically as a second kind of thought. And so that's how that came about. But you know, in answer to your question, you know, the album that came out in 2014, it was probably 14 years, 15 years after the previous Screw record, right?
Yep. Yep.
But even if there had been three records in that period of time, that's where I would have ended up because that's just where I was at that time. I'm actually working on another project now that sounds nothing like that, and it's because that it's just where I'm at. You know what I mean? It's what I feel like I have to say. I'm not trying to, you know, I'm not trying to sell records or trying to speak to a certain community. I'm just trying to say what I have to say.
And what are you at liberties to divulge about what you're working on right now musically?
Well, I mean, I can talk about it all day long because, you know, I'm not not signed or anything like that.
Right.
What
Okay.
basically kind of what I'm doing right now, it's if I had to like categorize it, it would probably be closer to like more like post-punk.
Hmm.
It's funny because I listen to it and I think some really early influences, like I mentioned earlier, Killing Joke,
Hmm.
Bauhaus. You know, there's a lot of that in it, but it's also there's a lot of electronics too. So it's who knows where it's going to end up. I'm actually working with, excuse me, I'm working with, there's a band that is signed to Relapse that's from here, and they are called, oh my God, it'll come to me in a second, but
Okay.
I'm working with their drummer.
Okay.
Um, and he's actually there on tour in Europe right now, doing, I think, mostly English dates. They're called Cherubs. Have you heard
Okay.
of them?
No, I have
Uh,
not.
it's really heavy, noisy stuff, and they were like a huge influence on a lot of bands. It's one of those bands that, you know, the Cherubs, they influenced so many people that are like way bigger than them now.
Yeah.
Uh, but you know, whatever. But anyway, so yeah, their drummer is one of the people that I'm working with on this project. It's kind of me and him. We just picked up another guy that's kind of a producer slash engineer, that's done a bunch of stuff. Adam Gibbs is his name, and so yeah.
Is the
So
project is the project named?
right now I'm calling it Bodies.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and and to what extent will it be? You know, how far will this venture go? Like, is it something that you'll take out and do live?
Uh, that remains to be seen. You know, if it's, I mean, yeah, probably there will be some live stuff.
Okay.
But that's, you know, we're at the pretty beginning stages. We're just
Embryonic.
writing
Yeah.
right now and,
Yeah.
you know, seeing how things come out. But I'll be honest, I'm pretty stoked about the way things are going. Um, and it's giving me an opportunity to kind of do some different things guitar wise too. Um, that was, you know, one of the things that you know, I struggle with is I I'm not like a natural musician. I'm not like a brilliant player, but I figure things out. Like a few years back, I did a project that never got released. Unfortunately, it's one of the best things I ever did. But I did it. It was me and Paul Barker from Ministry,
Hmm.
and a couple other guys, Dwayne Dassing from Mentallo and the Fixer. Um, and we did this project, and I was so burnt out on playing guitar, to be honest with you, uh, that I didn't even want to be involved, but they kept, hassling me, come on, come on, come on, come on.
Yep.
And finally, I go into the studio with them, and I just retuned the guitar, and I made up a tuning. It was EBCAAD. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever used that guitar tuning before, but to me it was brand new. And I'll be honest, like I said, it's one of the projects that I'm the most proud of because it forced me to kind of really search and do some things differently. And that was exciting and interesting to me. So, that's kind of what one of the things about this project Bodies that I'm excited about is that it's allowing me to really kind of spread my wings guitar wise. Because,
And so
like I
you're
said,
writing, and so you're writing the songs in the lyrics for these songs. So when you are doing that, like, where do you like? What type of creative person are you? Like, I mean, like, I talk to so many people on here, and you've got your creative types that I hear a lot of people get sparks of creativity when they're in their car, or maybe they're at their day job, or there's the creative people that kind of sequester themselves away and lock themselves up and make themselves like write. What's your process like?
uh, it's interesting. Recently, I've been doing a lot of ketamine,
Okay.
and I've been. I know that sounds crazy to say on someone's podcast, but I have been, and I've been writing a lot
Okay.
on ketamine,
Okay.
and um, it's interesting. It kind of allows you to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
It's a weird situation, a weird kind of deal, but it's been like kind of eye-opening. Like I'm really in a place where I'm doing a lot of stuff that's different from what I've done in the past. In the past, there were times when I would be recording a record, and I can remember being in Chicago during the recording of either the first or second SKREW record. I can't remember, but I was doing laundry at the laundromat next to the studio, and while I'm doing laundry, I'm writing the lyrics to a song that I've got to go after I finish my laundry and record in the studio.
Yeah.
And so, write it, and 45 minutes later, I'm laying it down.
Yeah.
That I've done it that way. I've done it where I've, had stuff written way ahead of time. I write all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, recently it's been a lot of really intense shits comes out.
Well, there's certainly no, I mean, the world is such a strange place. There's certainly no freaking shortage of material, I mean,
That is for sure. And my stuff has always been very like internal.
yeah.
Like, like I write from what's going on inside me. And
Yeah.
it's probably that's one of the things that you can, I don't mind when people say, "Oh, I hate SKREW."
Yeah.
I don't mind people saying that because at least they're feeling something.
There's an
You know what I
emotion
mean?
there. Yeah.
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 The worst is like, whatever,
Yeah.
because, really what I'm doing is I'm just expressing something inside me. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And so, it's uh it's kind of like laying your shit out there for, the public
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah.
And not
And when you have
everybody's into that.
and when you have a creative outlet, it's almost kind of like it's almost cathartic. It's almost like free therapy,
You just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
I can remember the moment that I discovered when I was probably 20 years old or 21 years old. I was getting sober. The first time I got sober,
Yeah.
and I was it was the first time where my guitar playing started really like improving because I was focusing on it. The focus of being in a band wasn't about getting loaded. At that point, I was kind of, playing guitar a lot
Yeah.
and improving. And I remember this moment where I thought, oh shit. So I can take that, anger and that hatred and that fucking shame and all of that stuff that's roiling around inside me, and I can express it through my fingers on this guitar. And that's better than like burning down the world around me, because up
Sure.
to that point, that's what I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that you're right, cathartic. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, my friend.
Yeah.
That's probably saved my life,
Yeah.
to be honest.
And because you're a sound guy, I equate you as like, obviously, other than the vocals and the guitar, as you said, you're doing programming. As a musical fan, what's your opinion when you see these bands? And again, I'm not a musician, but this has come up a lot, especially the last couple of years, when you see bands that have been doing it for a long time, and now they're using backing tracks, or they're using stuff to kind of like beef up their sound. If you're going to see a show, are you okay with that? Or would you rather see a band, kind of play it authentically, warts and all, and even if they don't have the chops anymore, at least it was authentic? Now, I'm not comparing what you do, because I know that
I get it.
I know that programming and stuff plays a big part in industrial music, but just like a band like Kiss. I mean, I know they're not the greatest musicians in the world, but or the Motley Crues of the world, or some of these bands that have been around a long time. Are they staying at the party too long?
That's a good point. And, my opinion's just no better than anybody else's, right? You know what they say about opinions. But I will say, since you asked me, that, I mean, come on, Motley fucking Crue, it's not that difficult. I mean, come on, I personally taken a little bit of offense with that whole thing, because I'm a huge Mick Mars fan.
Me too.
When that fucking first record came out, I was this punk rock kid, and I went to this underground record store that I used to shop at here in Austin, and I found that first record, and I picked it up, and I thought, oh, this looks fucking badass. And I took it up, and the chick that was working behind the counters she says to me, "You're not going to like that," because it was metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I just thought it looked fucking cool.
Yep.
And so I bought it, brought it home, took it home, and I was like, holy shit, it's heavy metal by Mattel. It reminded me of something that you would wind up a toy, and that would be the metal that came out of it.
Yeah.
So
that's accurate.
That fucking guitar tone on that first record, and all of that stuff, man, that Mick Mars, holy fuck, man.
Yeah.
So I've kind of taken offense to that whole thing. I think they treated him shitty, and
very,
and the backing tracks, and that guy that they've got with him now. I mean, he's a phenomenal player, but his tone blows. It doesn't.
He doesn't fit in.
No.
It's not the right fit. It's not a great fit. I mean, it's almost like these guys, they stick around too long, and they're almost turning themselves into caricatures.
It's all about the money.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the day, I kind of feel like when I don't have anything to say, I'm not going to fucking go, of course, I'm not dependent. I don't have a mansion that I've got to pay for. And
right.
You know what I mean? But whatever. At the end of the day, it's, for me, it's about the art,
Well, because I'm not a musician, I have no way to tell you. I mean, I'm a huge Def Leppard fan. A couple of years ago, I took my wife, and we went to see Def Leppard, Motley Crue, and Alice Cooper, and they played here in upstate New York. And Def Leppard sounded great, and but when you get home and you read these things where like but Nikki Sixx hasn't played a note on his bass in years, and there's a lot of lip syncing and this and that going on. You really do feel rooked, because as a layman and as a fan, you don't know if you're watching something and it's authentic or not.
Yeah. It's dishonest. I mean, if they were playing their songs and there was string sections that were on tape or
Right.
sampled or
That's
whatever.
different. Yeah.
I could, I'm down with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you're just up there dancing to
Going
the
through the motion,
music,
yeah. And it's like you said, like, I mean, I mean, how hard is it? You know what I mean? Like, they wrote these songs. I don't think the bass parts to all those songs are very intricate. I mean,
no, it's not. He doesn't have to be Jaco Pastorius to play
right,
those parts.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, but whatever. It's entertainment.
yeah,
Part of me goes, well, who am I to fucking judge?
right,
That's the other part. So,
right.
you know,
And what about all the strides that we've seen in technology? I mean, obviously, it's changed the record industry a lot. I mean, everybody is streaming nowadays. You're not seeing people as into the physical product anymore. Do you like where the business is right now? Yeah, inevitably, it seems like the industry kind of knew we were headed towards streaming. It's a shame that they didn't get in on it a little bit earlier and get artists paid a little bit better, because I hear the same story from artists on here. What an uphill battle it is. Musicians, I think, always said, I'm in it because I love it. But now that you really have to be in it because you love it, because there's not, as you said earlier, there's not a lot of money to be made.
There's not. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It all kind of imploded, I guess, with technology, and there's positives and there's negatives. I'll tell you, there's no way you can make a living unless you're Motley Crue or
Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Taylor Swift. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and so, the bottom line is you have to be doing it because it's what you do.
Yeah.
And so I guess there's that honesty about it. But, the other part is too that, every, Tom, Dick, and Harry can make a fucking amazing sounding record. That doesn't mean that it has anything to say, because you can do it on your phone. I mean, you know who Lil Peep was?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So all that shit was done on phones.
Yeah.
And I mean, kudos to those motherfuckers for being able to do that. But I don't know, I don't know. Again, who am I to judge? Because some of that shit was amazing that he did. Some of it was really, I felt like it was really some of the most powerful hip hop that I'd heard in a long time. And there were other guys that started around the same time. GROSSMANN, that guy's fucking, his shit's out of control. There's a guy named, actually from upstate New York, called Kill Dill. Have you heard of him?
Yep.
Man, fucking powerful shit. And this is just stuff that someone's doing out of their bedroom.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's positives and negatives. My whole thing is, what can I do right now? What I'm, in this moment, what is possible? Because I got no control over anything other than my ability to make a decision and to put one foot in front of the other. That's all I can do.
Right.
And so what, I've got a choice to make. Should I sit on my ass and bitch and moan, or should I just do what comes naturally to me? I mean, I work a job. I've got a kid, my number one focus is my son.
Sure.
He's 11 now. And, that is, that's, like I said, my number one, but, I also have to, for his benefit, fulfill who it is that I am. And that is, I'm a creative person. And so I have to show him, I have to model for him what it looks like for a person to be authentic and to really do what they do.
Yeah.
Because I want him to fulfill whoever he is. If he wants to be a fucking tap dancer or a mathematician, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
I'll support him doing whatever it is that he wants to do, whatever's authentic. So,
what does he think about your music? Out of curiosity. He's 11 years old, so obviously he's starting to form some of his own taste. I got 3 grown children and 6 grandkids, so I certainly know that around 11 years old is certainly when they start to get some opinions and some taste.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, man. He's ever since he was a little guy, he's like there's certain bands that he loves. Alice in Chains
One of
is
my favorites.
one of his favorites too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he'll say, "Oh, that's Lane stuff." You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like he knows
Yeah.
what is which period. And um so, he's not really into super heavy stuff, although there's some pride. Like a couple of times he's had buddies at school whose parents used to come out and see Screw.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they're like, "Oh, Boris, tell us about your dad," or
Yeah.
whatever. And so, there's a point of pride for him,
Yeah.
but he's really into a lot of different stuff. He's really into hip hop. I'm really into hip hop too.
Yeah. Yeah. So is
Um,
my son's in I mean he's 30 years old, but yeah, he's always been into hip hop since he was a kid. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think that's an area that where there's a lot of underground stuff happening that's really
Sure.
fucking cool. Um, Dude, I'll tell you a band though, a metal band that I'm really into right now. Orbit Culture.
Oh, they're great. Yeah. I'm actually trying to get somebody from the band on the podcast. I can't remember who I'm in contact with over
Holy
there, but yeah.
shit, man.
Yeah.
Such powerful stuff. Like
Yeah.
really, really impressive.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there are new bands that impress you, because I was gonna ask you about that, because the podcast certainly has helped me follow the algorithms on my streaming platforms, and how it'll say, oh, if you like this you might like this, and I've gone down those rabbit holes and I discovered some great new music, and I like putting artists from new bands on here and giving them a platform or whatever. But for a while I was kind of like that stodgy old fuck that would just, if I got time to listen to music, I would lean on my favorites. You know what I mean? Are you that kind of a listener, or are you able to find like new stuff out there that excites you?
I go through periods, man, where I go through periods where I'm listening to, old stuff
Yeah.
that I'm well aware of. There's periods where I'm listening to new stuff. Recently, I'll be honest with you. Recently, I've been really into listening to old R&B.
Me too. Me too. I just had a guy from a death metal band on, or an extreme metal band, the other day, and we got talking about this, how we've been going down this rabbit hole of like old soul music.
Yeah.
I've been on a tear lately. I mean, the Temptations and Otis Redding and
Yes.
Marvin Gaye.
Yes.
I mean, hard rock and metal is pretty much my forte. But I've been going down that rabbit hole like crazy, and I've been watching documentaries on the deaths of the Temptations and just anything I can get my hands on. I find it fascinating.
Well, the whole thing is that, it's kind of like I said earlier when, writing by myself, it becomes homogenous,
Yeah.
right? If I only listen to metal, I mean, I can't imagine it. It's, that whole thing about, man does not live on meat alone. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
we gotta kind of spread our wings a little so we
Sure.
can appreciate. I mean, one of my favorite records from the 90s was that Sepultura album Roots.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that thing is all over the place.
Right. That's when Mac started to really explore like the South, the South American tribal stuff and the drums and everything. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of folk stuff on there.
Yeah.
There's a Killing Joke record that I'm going to draw a blank on the name, but they recorded some of the songs in Egypt.
Yeah.
They recorded vocals for 3 songs in a chamber in the Great Pyramid. They got
Yeah, that's
permission from the government to do that, but they also recorded a bunch of Egyptian, Middle Eastern folk instruments
Yeah. That's cool.
that are on the record. And I mean, it's like I want to hear that. I want to hear the mixture of things. I want to be exposed to old shit, blues. I love country blues.
Yeah.
Acoustic slide guitar with some old man singing about his heartache. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That shit is powerful to me.
Yeah.
The one genre I have a hard time with is country western. I don't know why that is, but
Me too.
I've tried to
Yeah.
listen to it, but I just can't
Well, it
hang
seems
it.
like nowadays though, it's not the outlaw country. Like, I can go back in time and appreciate a Waylon Jennings or a Johnny Cash, but now it seems
Sure.
like now it seems like it's become a little too much crossover pop, and it seems like all these guys like from the suburbs, they go out and they buy a cowboy hat and suddenly they're country. It seems very watered down. You know what I mean? Like,
Dude, there's a metal band that is a country metal band. And I think they're from Dallas. I can't remember what they're called,
is it
but they
Spirit World?
no, but I have heard them as well. Now these guys are actual, I mean, it sounds like Pantera, but it's country western. It's the weirdest thing. I also heard like some country western rap.
Yeah, that's
It's
weird.
just, yeah, it's really, really weird. Which, but again, it's someone's digging it, and so if someone's digging it, I say fucking go for it,
I guess that's what it's come down to, having to invent genres now.
Right,
You got to come
right.
up with something. And so I'm interested though, because your music did involve so much technology though. You think technology though now, because it has even gone past like Pro Tools and stuff like that. Do you think nowadays that that people are critical of music, because the technology can make it so perfect? I mean, because it used to be rock and roll was a little bit loose, sometimes even oftentimes a little bit sloppy. Like, do you think people are like expecting? Because it seems like nowadays people are at concerts and they're taking out their cell phones and they're not just recording a snippet of their favorite song for posterity or to say, "Hey, look, check this out." It seems like everyone's running home and putting this stuff on YouTube and playing like armchair music critic, critiquing their stuff. And it's almost like people have gotten spoiled. Like they're looking for every little hiccup or every little mistake.
I think, what I'll tell you, I can remember years ago listening to, well, I was doing a record with this guy, Neil Kernan, who is a producer.
Does all the
And
death metal down in Florida. Yeah.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
done a bunch of that, bunch of
Yeah.
Cannibal Corpse.
Yep.
Who are those guys that do the Egyptian type stuff? Nile. He's
Nile.
done
Yep.
Nile. I mean, Neil, his stuff is immaculate. His stuff is perfect.
Yes.
And so, but he's developed that. I mean, this is a guy who did Hall and Oates big shit back in the early 70s.
Yeah.
He engineered all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he is a total pro. But at one point, we listened to some Zeppelin against a click.
Sloppy.
And John Bonham was all over the fucking place.
Yeah.
But holy shit, the amount of warmth and beauty behind that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the soul. I
Sure.
mean, it's, so you can't, and that's what been one of my things. And it was difficult actually working with Neil because he'd be like, it's got to be on the beat. And
Regimented.
I
Yeah.
play a little bit behind the beat. I'm, from Texas and I'm old and, so
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some groove there. There's some Texas groove there.
Yeah.
In all of the ANGKOR WAT and the SKREW stuff. And so, that to me, imperfection is where I find beauty. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well said. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when it's perfect, it leaves me a little bit cold,
Yeah.
but that's just me. That's just my opinion,
Yeah.
Some people are into it. And you're right. People are spoiled.
They
I mean,
are.
people are so used to I'm used to listening to music on my phone now.
Oh yeah. Me
I
too.
have earbuds, but
Yeah.
that's the main way that I hear music now.
Yeah. I thought about going and being a vinyl collector, but it's not cheap.
Fuck.
It's not cheap.
No, it's not. You're right. I mean, I've got a huge vinyl collection, but it's life is just different now. You know what I mean? Like when I'm in
Yeah.
my car, it's my phone. When I'm, doing whatever, when I'm on the hike and bike trail, doing a hike, whatever, it's coming off my phone into my earbuds. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
that's just what we've gotten used to. And
So let me ask you, your Mount Rushmore, not the greatest of all time, but your greatest, your top 4 artists of all time for you.
Oof, that is difficult. I'm going to have to go with the 4 that I mentioned previously, though. I'm going to have to go with Bauhaus, Killing Joke, Discharge, and Black Flag.
I guess we were down this road already, weren't we?
Well, I mean, you did ask about my guitar influences,
Yeah.
and but I mean that's going to change on different days too, because
Right.
I fucking worship Celtic Frost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Triptychon shit is fucking out of control too. There's all kinds of stuff that I really love. But Alice Cooper, I mean, when I was a kid, Billion Dollar Babies was on my turntable for probably 2 years straight, third
Yeah.
and fourth grade. You know what I mean? Like that was my soundtrack.
Now, what about, I'm going to ask you this question. I haven't been getting a lot of pushback. It's been pretty well received. Someone suggested this. It's called Rock Swap. So if we could take a dead musician and bring them back and give one back to God, who would we want back?
I love that. I've never heard of that before. I must be really out of the loop. Well, I'd have to bring back Hendrix.
Okay.
It would have to be Hendrix.
Now who the fuck can we get rid of?
So who can we get rid of?
Yeah.
I want to say.
And by the way, the last guest I had on earlier was way too diplomatic and didn't want to offer up anybody.
No,
he wanted somebody back, but he didn't want to play GM with me and make a trade.
No, I'm going to make a trade. I'm going to say we can send Ted Nugent to heaven.
Wow.
Now I'm going to say this.
Okay, defend yourself. Yeah.
I wouldn't trade his back catalog for nothing.
Okay.
Because I mean, that dude, holy fuck, man, what a smoking guitar player. But dude, I just cannot listen to that guy's mouth.
His abrasive views.
I mean, just obnoxious. It's like, have your opinions, but I don't want to hear about people killing people and, shoving a shotgun up someone's ass. And, that's beyond, what I mean? Like, I don't need that. So that's going to be my trade. I'll bring back Hendrix and send Nugent to meet his maker.
Fair enough. Now, if I were to take you, Adam Grossman, and drop you on a desert island, now this one's a tough one. What would be your desert island album if you could only take one?
Oh, that's a good question. If I could only take one, it would
essentially you're going to be out on a desert island listening to this thing and essentially dying to this thing.
Yeah. I'm going to have to say the Rolling Stones Sticky Fingers record.
Okay, that one makes you happy. That would bring you pleasure out on the desert island.
I think
ultimately you wouldn't mind it being the soundtrack to your demise.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's enough difference there. It would be that, or the other option would be Killing Joke, Brighter Than a Thousand Suns.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was one of those two. Either one would work.
Yeah, which is a depressing thought, being on a desert island with just one album. But I mean,
dude, that's a terrible thought. Being on a desert island, period.
Being on a desert island sucks.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that idea.
Now, obviously, over the years, as a fan, you've probably been to a lot of concerts, man. Does one stick out in your mind as like the best live experience that you've ever witnessed?
When I saw Black Flag on the Damaged tour, I think it must have been '82. It was with Dez on guitar as well as Greg Ginn on guitar. They had this drummer that was only with them for a short time, kid named Emil. Of course, Stokowski on bass and Henry on vocals. It was one of the most powerful shows I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like,
I love Henry.
Fuck, it was during that period, the Damaged era. I mean, that was when they were at the zenith of hardcore. I mean, there was nothing more hard than that.
Yeah.
So that's probably my number one show, most intense show.
Is there is there an artist out there that you'd like to see live that you've never gotten the opportunity to see?
I never, man, there's a bunch that I've never seen that I'd love to see.
I mean, like who's like a bucket list band? You know what I mean? Like if you could see them tomorrow, that would make you happy.
Yeah. Geez, that's a tough one. If we could bring Skinny Puppy back, they just ended their career, and I
They
didn't
did.
even get to catch them on that tour.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that. But let me just say,
I'm sure for the right amount of money, there you might see them back. You never know. I would say never in today's world.
these days, yeah. I mean, it's almost like a part of an accepted part of the career where you retire and then
Yeah.
do a.
I mean, I know there. I mean,
even Slayer,
I know Skinny Puppy's kind of like a niche market or whatever, so there might not be people out there by the droves clamoring for them to come back, but they certainly have an audience, though.
Absolutely. I think probably my dream show would be Killing Joke. To be able to see them. I saw them a bunch of times, but when Jordy passed away, I was just like, man, that hit me hard. That really hit me hard because I realized, fuck, I'm never going to see that band play again. And that guy's, I mean, what an individual player, what that guy's style, and nobody else does it or has done it. Nobody else could do it.
Right.
That would be it probably.
And now you did a stint. Correct me if I got the date wrong. Back around 2003, you did a stint in ministry.
Yes.
You remember? Does anything stick out about your time? Getting to work with Al. He's such a polarizing figure. Everybody seems to have an opinion on Al.
I'm going to be very honest about Al. I've known him since the early 90s. I've actually had the opportunity to have Christmas dinner with Al 3 times.
Yeah.
Don't ask me how that's happened, but it has happened. And, on the one hand, the guy's fucking a brilliant, I mean, he is brilliant. He really is in many ways. He's super well read. I mean, and the guy has a heart of gold, which is not what many people know about him.
Right.
He's also a terrible fucking drug addict, just a horrendous drug addict. And when we're involved in that shit, we do fucked up stuff, and
no doubt.
So he's been I was in ministry for a very short time. Actually, it was like 3 years, but we didn't do anything except for we did that movie, Artificial Intelligence, wrote a bunch of stuff for that, did a record, wrote a bunch of stuff for that. And then after 3 years, it came time to go out on the road, I was kind of over it at that point and bailed and finished up a master's degree. Actually, being in that band helped pay for that. So I'm very grateful to them. So working with him, he's great to work with. I mean, that was an experience that was really, in the studio watching him and being a part of that. And, he played on some stuff. The very first SKREW record, we recorded in the same studio that they were working in at the same time doing the Psalm 69 record.
Yeah.
And that was in 91, I guess, 90 or 91, something like that. Yeah. And so that's when I first had the opportunity to watch Al at work and to work with him on stuff. And no, he's a fucking genius, man. A tortured genius, we'll say that.
I saw them around that time too, because I remember they were on the 1992 Lollapalooza. I remember seeing them live.
That's right. That's right.
I think that, and it was only the second Lollapalooza, you know what I mean? So it was only in its second year. So
right, we did some side stage shows for that year. Yeah. God, that was a long fucking time ago, bro.
I know. Like I think about Perry Farrell starting that, and then it's so funny because he's just been in the news recently with him and Dave Navarro getting into their little scuffle on stage there.
Well, I'll tell you, the funny thing about that is I was going out with this woman about 2 years ago, and somehow in conversation we were talking about Lollapalooza,
Yeah.
and she's from LA and the Phoenix area, and she actually came up with the name Lollapalooza. He wanted to call it something about the jamboree, blah blah blah, but she came up with the name Lollapalooza, and got dick for credit, but whatever, it doesn't matter. So it's interesting how things work. Yeah, that guy, man, that's another sad case of substance abuse gone
Yeah,
wrong.
it seems like it is. It seems like it's. What did she say the
Yeah.
origin of Lollapalooza was, man? Like, was it just a word she came up with? What is it meant to be? Kind of like a
So
potpourri of different things?
a Lollapalooza is have you ever seen those? It's a sucker that's like a
Squirrel?
big sucker
Okay.
on a stick, hard candy, and it's like in a swirl on a
Okay.
stick. You've seen those, right?
Sure. Yes. Yep.
That is a Lollapalooza.
No kidding. I
Yeah,
don't think I don't think I ever attached the name to it though.
yeah, that's what that is.
I think it's better than whatever the hell he was going to call it. I don't
Well,
even think you were. I don't even think you were positive. But as soon as I heard Jamboree, I was like, "That's not as
it
good as
was like
Lollapalooza."
some psychedelic, jamboree or something.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
knows?
I remember seeing the second one in 1992, and then by the time I went to see another one, it was 1996, and by then it had kind of lost that bohemian kind of feel that it had because
Yeah.
it was being headlined by Metallica, and suddenly it was Lollapalooza, sponsored by Budweiser. It had just gotten swallowed up by the corporate world. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like suddenly, like it didn't have that same. It didn't have that same like, oh, here's all these up and coming alternative. You know what I mean? Like underground bands, and I mean,
Right.
it kind of
Right.
lost the aesthetic a little bit.
I think they still do it in
They do.
Chicago. Like
Yeah,
once-
but it doesn't tour like it used to, though. I think
Yeah,
it just goes to
right.
the one city, and that's
yeah,
it.
yeah. Someone bought the name.
Somebody brought that. So before I let you out of here, man, like what
Sure.
other endeavors are you doing right now? So you mentioned like the bodies thing, but you also mentioned like some writing. Like, is this like memoir type stuff?
It's interesting. There's a guy that is out with Pantera as a videographer, and he's been out with Pantera. It's weird. I've got a couple of buddies that are on that tour. My buddy Bobby is Rexx's bass tech and
I'm going to see them
production.
I'm going to see them next year. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, this videographer guy turns out he's a big SKREW fan, and so we're talking about doing a documentary, or he wants to do a documentary. That's one thing that we're possibly working on. I've got like 3 or 4 movie ideas that I've been working on for the last 5 or 6 years. I write poetry. I mean, I stay busy.
Yeah.
But really, right now, my focus, excuse me, is this band thing, Bodies.
Yeah.
I'm really, really excited about the possibility of doing something next year, maybe making a record.
Yeah.
There's a producer that wants to work with us on it. He did like a lot of the early Scratch Acid stuff. He did the Steve Albini's Rape Man album. So so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, man, I'm glad we got a chance to do this, man. I really, really enjoyed it. And since we're in touch now, man, for sure, stay in touch. I'd love to do it again, man. For sure. I'd love to have you back on.
Absolutely, Rex, man. I really appreciate
My
your
pleasure.
time and having me on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. I really
Very
appreciate
cool.
you doing it, man. Thank you. It was a great talking to you and great meeting you. And, I'll keep in touch for sure.
Right on, man. Hey, man,
it's like you're
good.
Stuck with me now. I've inserted myself into your life.
That's okay. You're David Lee Roth's offspring. So,
Yeah.
what I'm honored.
You should be. Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate it. This has been great, man. Had a blast,
Right
man.
on.
Thank you.
Right on. You too.
All right.
Thanks,
Talk to you
man.
later, brother.
Later.
There he goes, folks. Adam Grossman. You know him as pretty much the guy, the architect of the sound of SKREW. and spell fucking screw correctly. SKREW. Man, they were fucking amazing, man. 1991's Burning in Water, Drowning in Flame, a fucking masterpiece. 1994, Dusted. Finished off their career with 2014's Universal Immolation, which is, for all you metalheads out there, a very metal sounding album. I would say the first two that I mentioned there, a little more in the industrial, in the vein of a Skinny Puppy, early 9 Inch Nails, Ministry type of thing, man. But still heavy as fuck. So if you're into the heavy shit, man, early fucking Screw, middle Screw, late Screw, all fucking heavy. That I can fucking guarantee you, man. So really enjoyed that conversation, man. Let me give myself another look here just to make sure at the end of another long interview, man. I'm looking fucking good. The quaff is in order, man. The Roth quaff in effect. It never fails. Never fails. Having those Roth jeans, man, is a fucking blessing. Even Adam could see it, man. So again, he may be quoted on that or possibly subpoenaed if we get that far. But thank you to the great Adam Grossman. Really appreciate it. Such an honor having him on here. And of course, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell on this channel to stay tapped in where all the cool kids come to hang out with your boy, Rexx Ruger. No place else, man. Of course, the Freddie Mercury puppet back there, my silent but never quiet partner. Well, I should say always quiet partner, but he's a mouthful of teeth. But of course, he's Freddie Mercury, so he's supposed to be a mouthful of teeth. So goes without saying. He's doing what he's supposed to do back there, watching my back. That's loyalty right there. And when you're working with a guy that doesn't talk, you get no grief. I wish all my coworkers were like that. You know? Hey, I mean, what's better than a silent partner? Nothing. So that being said, thanks again to Adam Grossman. Make sure to also like and follow us on Facebook. Hit me up with messages. Let me know what you like, what you don't like, who you'd like me to get on here. I'll try to run them down for you, man. And of course, you know, as I said, subscribe, stay tapped in. That's the important part. Great conversations are always plentiful on here on Pod Scum with your boy Rexx Ruger, aka Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. And like I always say when I end these things, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.